welcome to the Solemn Tones channel. If you just enjoyed that little demo, I have great news, because the guitars were Odin, but the drums were something entirely new. I am super stoked to announce Mjölnir drums today. Our new drum sampler. It doesn't require any outside programs like Contact or Drumagog. It isn't just a bunch of wave samples. It is our very own sampler with our very first kit. It comes in basically every single popular plugin format, VST, AU, AAX. You will be able to get 15% of any product in the store using the code LAUNCHDRUMS. But first, how about we hop into the program and check out Mjölnir drums. So we're in the session of that track you just heard at the beginning of the video. We've got Mjölnir drums loaded up right here. Oh, I'm so proud of this. So when you first open Mjölnir drums, the first thing you will notice is that the UI is super simple. The main goal for us was to make sure that the second you load up these drums, A, you've got a really sweet, almost mix-ready sound, just a giant ready drum mix, and B, that it's still very, very simple for you to actually change everything to your liking. So let's go over some of the features. First, we have the main screen right here. This is basically if you don't want to do any work to it whatsoever, you can still change the levels of your drums, like you have your kick, your snare, all your toms and all your cymbals together. This is assuming you just want a ready sound right out of the box. So you've got the usual, solo, mute. Then we've got the mixing button. This will open up a new pane where you can actually go more in depth, but more on that later. We've got routing for if you want to manually change all the drum maps. Maybe you're used to some kind of other drum map from another program you would really like to use. We use the most default drum map. Generally, everyone will be used to this one already. Regardless, if you're not, you can still change everything. So you would be doing that here at the bottom. But on the top, we actually have output channels. So if you want to route out all these drum sounds into different tracks so you can process them yourself, you can do that up here. When loading the program, generally, you can choose between stereo output, meaning I don't want to change anything about this, or 12 separate outputs so you can do everything you want with them. Now here at the bottom you can actually change which MIDI notes trigger which sounds. Another really interesting function is that let's say you have an electronic drum kit and you don't want to have to manually click all these things. What you can do is you can double click here on kick, then play your kick on the electronic drum kit or even a MIDI keyboard like this, and it will route it so that it's actually ready to use right there. So it will do everything automatically for you, so you can immediately start playing and don't have to worry about all the technicalities. Now you can click on main view to actually go back to the more easy main view. Now another really interesting button, and I love this thing so damn much, is the humanize button. I'm sure other people have had this before, but let's say you're just riding, you're in that riding groove, that creative space, and so you're not really humanizing yet, you're just riding your drum track at a 127 velocity, balls to the wall, and so you haven't really humanized or anything, but you still want to have, you don't want a super robot sound. That's why we added this humanize button. Rather than you having to do like 10 extra clicks to randomize the velocities, you can actually just do that by turning this humanize button. And so the higher you turn it, the harder it will humanize. So this way, when you're in that writing process, you don't have to be thinking about randomizing your velocities and everything. You can just go ahead, everything in 127 velocity, and just crank this up and it'll do everything for you. Now, of course, if you're gonna make an album, it might be wise to actually put that extra time into humanizing so it's played like a drummer would play it. But if you're not yet in those stages of absolutely finalized album, this is ideal and saves you so much time. Now up here we have our preset loader, and it is something really interesting and special as well. So how Mjölnir drums basically works is, and I'll show you here in the mixing, we have a direct sample and a room sample. So yes, we have both direct room samples, and so what you can do is you can blend the two. And so what you can do is, by default, this preset will be loaded up, which is just your balanced, almost mix-ready sound. But by using the presets, you can actually change how all of this is set up. So we've got natural, which will turn down the rooms quite a bit. We've got Maxim's drums, which is just like the preset I came up with and used the most in my own mixes. We have giant room, where the rooms are just cranked up. We have no room for if you want the most bare, basic, dry samples there are. And then we have only room for if you've got your own drum tracks, but then you want to add some room to it. So this way you can actually load different kinds of drum sounds just with one click. Overall though, if you don't feel like fiddling with it, balanced, our default option, will actually sound really dope already. So then of course you also have the option to pan however you want, solo, mute, as you would expect. If you feel like changing the amount of room you have, but you don't want to have to slide up and down all these different faders, we also have room and direct faders, which will influence every single track at once, as well as a master fader if you want to turn everything down. We also have mute, so you can basically check like how does it sound without a room, how does it sound with the room. And then another really cool feature I'm a huge fan of is the invert pan. What I often notice in forums is that people are actually fighting and arguing over whether you want your drums in audience perspective or player perspective. And so invert pan basically does that. Oh, you want audience perspective? You just click or click off and you can change how everything is panned with one button rather than having to change it all manually. This way you can actually check with one click whether you want one or the other perspective. And then here we just have the button to go back to the main view. Of course we also have this little volume bar here so you can see things are working. And then when the drums are played, you probably saw it in the example already, all the drums are of course lighting up. Now if you want to demo what something sounds like, you can also just click on it. Now I figured it'd be interesting to actually show you the effect of our humanize function. So I'll quickly put this on loop, this little snare roll right here. And in the mixing tab, I will turn off the room because of course you want the dry snare to see what the humanize function actually does. So we turn it off. And of course this is all at 127 velocity. So this will not sound real at all. So then I will turn on and off the humanize function. You will really hear the difference. As you turn on the humanize function, you will start switching between different velocity layers and so forth. So that was it for this demo of Mjölnir drums. In the end, the design philosophy of Solemn Tones is literally, I want to be able to load something up and immediately start creating without having to fiddle with too many variables. I just want to load something and it sounds awesome. And if you still want to change stuff, go ahead, click on mixing, start playing around, turn off the rooms, add your own reverbs, whatever. But the second you load this up, this will sound larger than life. I'm super proud to finally be able to share this with you. To celebrate the launch of Mjölnir drums, we are doing a store-wide promotion, 15% off using the code LAUNCHDRUMS. I will put a link in the description where you can go pick this up, or Odin. I will say the guitars in this example are actually all Odin and the drums are all Mjölnir drums. Hope to see you on the site.